Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our weekly Sunday night weather hangout here in the very nice confines of the Storm Track Weather Center. Look how nice it is. Nice and quiet right now. Look at this nice big office we have. Thanks for joining us. I know we missed out last week honoring the Memorial Day weekend. We did not have a Sunday night weather hangout, so we're going to do it doubly as well this week for us here. Now starting off our June for us. Officially, we are in a meteorological summer for us. The three warmest months of the year, June, July, and August, are upon us, and so that's why it's referred to as meteorological summer. Now, we got a lot of questions. We've been talking a lot on social media, on Twitter and Facebook. I have been today talking about the severe weather potential over the next few days, especially as we get into Wednesday. And most of the questions that I have here written down from the Twitter, from Facebook, and I'm keeping an eye over there. If you guys are following me as well, you can go ahead and try to ask some questions. I'm going to get to the ones that I already have written down. If you guys are watching live right now, I know there's a lot of you that watch this taped later on Sunday evening or during the day on Monday, and I don't blame you. It's a very nice evening tonight as far as weather is concerned. We're going to be going through a few questions live as well here on Google+, where this is hosted. For those of you who don't know much about Google+, it's basically Google's version of Facebook, but I'm doing it live on a Google Plus Hangout. And you can actually ask questions right now if you're on Google Plus, and I can try to answer them as we go through the evening hours for us here. This will last about 20 to 25 minutes. Again, if you haven't been part of one of these before, I'm going to give you the full rundown of the forecast. I'm going to give you some of those nerdier aspects that I don't have time to fit in on the actual newscasts, and give you a little behind-the-scenes forecasting of what I'm looking at here. And this week it's going to be centered especially on the severe weather threat over the next few days for us here. So let's get to what we're looking at as far as the forecast goes. And again, one of the cool things I can do here is I obviously have my live camera right there on my computer, but I'm going to switch the screen around, and I'm going to show you guys what I'm looking at on my screen here. And actually, it's just this simple. So what we're starting off with is a water vapor loop. And those of you that have watched a couple of these Sunday night weather hangouts, or you're a casual weather observer, you've seen some of these before. And basically, this is a satellite image. It's looping, and it's showing the moisture content in the atmosphere. It gives us an idea of, A, where some of the moisture is, where some of the drier pockets are. The drier pockets show up in the dark colors here. The whites obviously are clouds and higher moisture content. But also, if you look at some of the swirls, especially up here in Canada, some of them are a little bit easier to see. It shows us where we're looking at areas of low pressure, high pressure, areas of lift, areas of downward motion in the atmosphere, and it gives us an overall sense of what's going on. And this evening, what's important to really take out of this is we have a strong jet stream coming into the western United States. We've got a good surge of moisture that's worked all the way up into the northern plains, and that's really what we're going to stay focused on here. And I'm going to switch things over to the Simu AWIP software. This is totally cool. It's free software. It's just simuawips.com, but it has a lot of the weather models and weather information on it. It makes it easy for me in these hangouts to show you guys with these screen shares what's going on and best way to convey it for us here. This is the latest analysis of where the moisture is across the United States. And anywhere you get into these blue and purple shades, there's not that much going on. But you get these greens and these yellows, that's where it's very muggy. There's a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. And you notice this extends all the way from Florida and the Gulf of Mexico and Texas, all the way up through Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, and over Lake Superior. But here in northwest Ohio and southeastern Michigan, it's not necessarily the most moist atmosphere. In fact, it's still off to the west of us this evening, and that's where we've been seeing some showers across Illinois, Indiana, especially up into Iowa, Nebraska, and back towards Minnesota this evening. But as we go overnight tonight, I'm going to put this into motion, showing you how the moisture is going to be moving. Watch overnight for us this evening as that slug of moisture creeps just a little bit closer to us. In fact, I can show you a better version of it right here. And this is by 11 o'clock this evening and overnight tonight. So if you sleep with the windows open tonight, you're going to go to bed. It'll probably be very comfortable, dry. But by the time you wake up tomorrow morning, not only are we expecting the chance for some scattered showers and thunderstorms, but it also looks like it's going to be a lot muggier, a lot more humid of a morning for tomorrow morning. So keep that in mind. We're squarely over a area of high moisture content in the atmosphere. It's only going to last for the better part of a 24-hour stretch or so. Watch the back edge of this moisture. This is actually a cold front, but it's represented by the cold front scouring out the moisture. Watch as we go through the day on Monday how that back line of drier air pushes back into the area. And that's a sign that we're going to see some forcing coming on through. And that's why I'm expecting not only to see the round of showers in the morning, tomorrow morning right here when the moisture moves in, that's where we typically see some showers and thunderstorms, but also tomorrow evening as that cold front pushes across the Great Lakes, we could get some more lift in the atmosphere, and that could create a few more showers and thunderstorms. So one of the questions that I did receive on Facebook earlier by Tony was asking, what are the timing of the storms for us here? I think Tony was specifically asking, what are we looking at as far as the potential for some of these storms to hit overnight periods like we've seen some previous storms hit? This one, it looks like it's going to be very on par with what we've seen already this spring, Tony. It looks like we're going to see that surge of moisture move in overnight tonight, and we're going to get that round of storms early in the morning. You might even be woke up by a couple claps of thunder, some strikes of lightning, and a brief heavy downpour. It could last through the morning commute. Then I expect several hours of dry weather during the late morning hours, early afternoon. And once that atmosphere warms up a little bit, and remember that cold front we were talking about starts pushing into the Great Lakes, that adds a little bit more lift to the atmosphere. Well, that's when I expect to see more showers and a few thunderstorms develop tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. The severe weather threat isn't very high for tomorrow. There is the potential we could get some gusty winds, but I think the bigger thing we'll be watching out is for some very heavy downpours. I showed you that moisture plume that's going to move overhead for tomorrow. It wouldn't be out of too crazy to think about some locations seeing 1 to 2 inches of rain tomorrow if a storm happens to sit for a long period of time. I think most of us that do see a shower tomorrow, though, will be more in the 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain range. And remember, keep in mind, I'm not expecting tomorrow to be a washout. These will be scattered showers and thunderstorms that come overhead. But if you see repeated rounds of storms, it's possible you could see 1 or 2 inches of rain by the end of Monday. More likely, I expect most areas will see 1 to 2 inches of rain by the end of Wednesday when you add up Monday's chances, Tuesday's chances, and Wednesday's chances as well. All right, so Tony, I hope that answers your question for the timing of the showers for tomorrow. Let's get back to this and show you what else is going to be happening. So this is Monday evening. We still have the moisture overhead. Watch what happens on Tuesday. Look how that moisture really gets pushed off to the east. It tries to start building back into the Midwest and Central Plains. But this is why I'm expecting Tuesday to be a relatively dry day. There's still enough moisture around. It's still possible we could see some scattered showers. But watch what happens again as we get into Tuesday night and into Wednesday. Look how that moisture plume pushes back in. And there you go with more chances for some showers as we get into Wednesday. I'll give you another view of this. Not only do I want to show you just what's happening as far as the moisture is concerned, but also I mentioned that when we were looking at that water vapor loop, for those of you that have been watching right from the get-go, it showed strong winds pushing into the southwestern U.S. Over towards California. I'm going to show you now a map of the atmosphere about halfway up. If you consider us at the ground zero, you consider outer space the upper limit, about halfway through is what this map is going to be, and it's going to show you some of those stronger winds that are going to be pushing through the Midwest with this system. And when you add in that moisture, a little bit of that instability with how warm things are going to be over the next few days, all you need is that little trigger, and the fast winds moving through the mid part of the atmosphere are going to be that trigger force. Think about like a river moving very fast. That's what the air is doing high above our heads, and that's what we're going to be tracking here. So don't be intimidated by this map. I'll walk you through it here. This is what's going on for this evening for us. And basically, here's the river. All of the blue shade that you see here, that's the direction that the air is moving for us. Now I'm going to move this forward in time, and I want you to watch down here towards Los Angeles and the coast of California, Baja California here. See these pinks starting to show up? Those are stronger wind gusts. And watch how those winds start to translate eastward. And this is that piece of energy that we're watching. It's amazing to watch. And by the time we get towards Tuesday evening and into Wednesday, look at how that pushes in to the Midwest. I'm going to back this up a little bit. And I'm expecting on Tuesday we'll see some widespread thunderstorms across Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, up into Minnesota as well. And as that translates eastward, when you get a little bit of that instability pushing back in, and remember that moisture that's going to be pushing in as well, we're getting the ingredients coming together for the potential for our largest severe weather outbreak so far this year. Now, a lot of things have to line up exactly right, but 3 days out, the things that we're looking at are in place right now, so it is the potential for some severe weather, especially strong straight-line winds. Isolated tornadoes aren't out of the question. There is the potential for some hail, but it doesn't look like very large hail at this point, at least over the immediate area. Looks like straight-line winds are really going to be something that we're going to have to be watching really closely with this one for us here. And you're going to start hearing some buzz around the community, especially when you head back to work on Monday and people start talking about the weather a little bit. Yeah, there's the potential for some strong storms on Monday, mainly just heavy rain with some thunderstorms. But Wednesday could be the big day for us, or at least our first big day for severe weather across the Midwest and Great Lakes. So we're going to be watching that one really closely. I've got the latest weather model data that's coming in here this evening. We're going to be looking over that. So before the 11 o'clock show, we'll give you the latest information. And for those of you that have watched these Sunday night weather hangouts, you know if we get towards an event that's going to be more significant, we did it already this winter, I'm going to come on here and we're going to do some special weather hangouts where I'll do these hangouts through the week as needed to give you the very latest information on what we're looking at for the severe weather threat. So just hang with me. We're going to talk a little bit more about that threat on Wednesday coming up here in a little bit, but I want to get through the rest of the forecast for us here because there's still some cool things that I wanted to show you. Not only about this piece of energy coming through right here, but I'm going to bring it in a little bit closer, and this is one of our weather models that we watch. This is a Midwest view. To give you some perspective, here's Northwest Ohio, here's Southeastern Michigan. This is the view at 2 p.m. this afternoon, and it did a good job of depicting the showers and thunderstorms that popped up over Illinois and western Indiana. This is just typical daytime heating. Remember, we didn't have a lot of moisture over Ohio and Michigan. That's why we didn't see too many showers or thunderstorms here. As we go overnight for tonight and into tomorrow morning, there you go with that threat for some early morning showers or thunderstorms. But that'll be pushing out, and by the early afternoon hours, the higher threat for storms will begin to push back in, especially late in the afternoon. There's that cold front from Chicago back down towards Springfield, Illinois, let's say down towards St. Louis and up towards Green Bay, and then towards the overnight hours, there you go with the potential for a strong wind gust or so. It looks like the better potential, and I've highlighted it right here at 8 p.m. Monday, is really over northern Indiana and into Michigan. But hey, it's something that we're going to be watching as these storms push on through. Okay, so Tuesday, this is the afternoon for Tuesday. Notice there's not really a whole lot going on. We're going to keep the chance for a few scattered showers and thunderstorms. But watch this on Wednesday. I mentioned that piece of energy that's coming through the Midwest. Look what it does in Iowa. Really ramps up some storms there in Iowa, and this is called an MCS. This is a mesoscale convective complex or mesoscale convective system, MCS. And basically what that means is the ingredients are in place over parts of the Central Plains. They've got a lot of instability. They've got that strong forcing coming up. And instead of having individual storms that we track, 1, 2, 3 storms that we track, all these storms kind of merge together, and they can form a bow echo line of storms that stretches 100 to 300 miles long. And these storms are very efficient, and they move forward very quickly, sometimes 60, 70 miles per hour, just like you were driving a car, only, of course, they don't have to stay on the roadways. So these are large complexes of storms that can easily be seen from space. Some of the images that we get are truly amazing. But these typically happen at night when there happens to be just the right ingredients to lift the atmosphere and create the storms. And they go all night long across Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota. They're famous for these long-lived storms. What we're going to watch on Wednesday, I'm going to turn things back over to the view that we were just looking at, and I want you to watch how this complex moves from west to east during the overnight hours. How these storms hold together, of course, they have to develop first, but we're assuming that that happens. How these storms hold together and move eastward is going to be really important to our severe weather threat on Wednesday. I'm going to give you my honest thinking here. Is these storms typically have a very difficult time holding together. It seems like during the overnight hours, they develop very quickly. There's just something about when we go from the overnight hours and into the daylight hours, so this would be from Tuesday into Wednesday, storms have a really hard time holding together. A lot of times what will happen is they'll completely fizzle out or mostly fizzle out, and then new storms will generate during the afternoon hours. So that's what I'm expecting to happen. One of those two things, either the storms will piddle out, and we'll have to watch for new storms developing, or the more dangerous scenario, which is that the storms across Iowa will cross the Mississippi River, they'll stay together, and we'll have to watch them coming our way. Here's the good news. If those scenarios play out, is we'll have a lot of lead time because these storms will be all the way west of the Mississippi River heading our way. So we'll be able to track these things up to 12, 15 hours even potentially before they arrive in our area if the biggest wind threat does actually arrive for us. So that's going to be really something interesting to watch. I'm going to turn things back over here and show you what I think these storms will do or what this weather model does. So here's this MCS, this mesoscale convective system over Iowa. And as it moves eastward, this is by 8 a.m. Wednesday. It's pretty much over Chicago, Waterloo, Wisconsin, back towards the Twin Cities in Minnesota. It kind of becomes disorganized. This is by 11 a.m. Wednesday morning. It's a little bit more disorganized, but watch what happens right here by 2 p.m. See this line from Chicago back down towards St. Louis? That could be another line that redevelops and pushes into our area. So it's not completely out of the question. We could be looking at 2 rounds of strong or severe storms during the day on Wednesday. I don't think that's very likely, but it is possible, and it's something that, of course, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on for us here. So not only are we talking about the threat for the strong storms on Wednesday, keep in mind that's 3 days out. We've got lots of time to watch this yet. But we also have some decent chances for rain, and that's going to be some really good news for a lot of those farmers out there. I know a lot of crops were planted, and now they kind of need some rain. So here's our latest forecast. This is at ToledoNewsNow.com. You can always get the latest 7-day forecast there. Or if you're like me and you're on your smartphone all the time, download the Storm Track Weather app. It's totally cool. You can zoom in on radar, do all sorts of cool stuff. But you'll notice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those are the highest chances for showers. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday actually look very dry, especially Friday and Saturday. There's still an outside chance that we could see a rain shower on Thursday, but I'm thinking it's dry. Friday and Saturday, and then into Sunday, scattered chances for showers move back in. So let me show you this. We've had a lot of questions about what are the main threats for severe storms. Where are we looking at the threat for severe storms? Well, I want to show you this. This is from the SPC, the Storm Prediction Center. This is in Norman, Oklahoma, and these are some of the brightest minds out there as far as forecasting severe weather. And they've got a lot of the same thinking that we have here in the Storm Track Weather Center. Let's bring you ahead here. This is Monday's severe weather threat. It's not all that high. Anywhere in the brown area that you see here, this is the potential for some severe storms. The probabilities aren't that high, but it does include our area, so we're going to be watching this. And the main threat here would be some gusty straight-line winds. Here's what we're watching as far as the threat for Wednesday, and anywhere in this red zone has much higher probabilities than what you were just looking at there. So it pretty much includes our entire viewing area, most of Indiana, all of Ohio for the most part, into Pennsylvania. And so what they're thinking here is that that complex of storms could develop off to the west and then push into our area. And the biggest threat here, again, would be straight line winds, but we can't rule out the threat for some isolated tornadoes as well. So that's why we're going to be watching this one really closely for us here. All right, I want to get to some questions for us. If you guys have questions, if you're watching live right now on the Storm Track Weather blog, the best way to ask a question is if you follow me on Facebook and Twitter. If you don't have those links, look right above here. I've got those posted there. If you have a Google Plus account, add me on there as well. The link's right above if you're watching me on the Storm Track Weather blog. If you're watching me on Google Plus and you want to ask a question, go to the main page of this event, type in the question, and I have a window right here on my computer where I can see where the latest questions have been asked, and I'll go ahead and answer some of those. But I want to make sure right here that I've answered all the questions for us here. Amber asked, what were the main threats over the next few days? I think I've addressed that for us here. Tony asked, what were the timing of the storms? Again, I think we addressed that pretty well. Here are two of the questions that we haven't answered so far for us here. We're going to get to Cookie first, and she asked, this was over on the WTOL Facebook page, overall view on the season ahead. What does the summer look like? I think we're really looking towards a pretty normal summer season ahead of us. Temperatures may be just a little below normal as far as the whole season is concerned, but overall I don't expect anything too unusual as far as if you're thinking this past winter might have played a big influence on what we're looking at this summer. I think that most of those effects were felt in the early spring months. Now we're really starting to come out of that for us here. Here's a really cool question. This came from Sarah, and Sarah is one of our great question givers. She's been doing well over on my Facebook page here the last few weeks, and want to stay true because anytime that you guys ask a really good question, I want to answer these. These are great questions. It doesn't have anything to do with the forecast. It has to do with just general weather questions. And while a lot of this Google Plus Hangout is going to be committed to telling you guys about the forecast and what's ahead the next few days, I also want to just share the wealth of knowledge that we have in the Storm Track Weather Center about the weather around us. So Sarah asked a very simple question. Get this one a lot. Why do we see hail? It's really cool. The best way to think about this one is to think about the atmosphere as a whole. We talked about this. If we're at the ground here and this is outer space, well, obviously it's a lot warmer down here on the ground than it is higher up in the atmosphere. Well, as a storm develops, you get that lift in the atmosphere. That causes water vapor in the atmosphere to condensate. It creates those very tiny water droplets. We see them all bunched together. We call those clouds. Obviously, those are in the form of water droplets. Well, as you get bigger and bigger water droplets, they eventually start to fall as rain. But in thunderstorms, what happens is you get an updraft that develops from the heating of the day or maybe from a cold front. There's a whole host of reasons why this can develop. But think about a storm developing has upward motion. It also has downward motion along with it. So even in the most mundane of thunderstorms, in thunderstorms that don't produce any sort of severe weather, any gusty winds or anything like that, you still always have this upward motion and a downward motion. And that's always going to lead to a little bit of rotation inside of these thunderstorms, okay? Well, with that upward motion and a little bit of that rotation, it can take some of those water droplets, take it high up into the sky, above the freezing mark. So it's colder than freezing high up in the atmosphere. So obviously the water droplets, well, they stay frozen. That is until they start to drop. Many times the frozen droplets will melt before they reach the ground. But you can still feel the effects of it. You ever been outside on a really hot day? You get that afternoon thunderstorm or rain shower that develops, and you notice notice how cold that rain feels sometimes? Well, that's because it was just up above the freezing levels, up way up there where it's much colder. Well, sometimes in these thunderstorms, especially the stronger that they are, that's where we get the bigger hail developing, because those small water droplets, well, they collide with each other, and they can get bigger and bigger and bigger. And depending on how strong the upward motion is in the storm, it can actually hold this hail high up in the sky. Sometimes baseball, softball size hail can literally be suspended in midair because the upward motion of the storm, the upward winds in the storm, literally just hold this hail there. That's why a lot of times when you see us doing severe weather coverage, we mention how big the potential hail is. Not only because it's going to be falling down, it's going to be doing damage potentially to roofs, to crops, also to vehicles, or not to mention yourself if you're outside, but it gives us a very strong indication of just how strong those storms are, because the stronger the storm, the bigger the hail that can be held aloft. And a lot of times when you see us doing those three-dimensional scans of storms and we're kind of zooming around, it looks like the MRI or the X-ray sort of thing. It's totally science fiction, but it's totally cool. It's real scans, it's in real time, but it seems like it should be science fiction. But we can look inside of those and see where those hail cores are, how high up they are in the atmosphere, and that's a really strong indicator for us on how strong that a storm really is. So Sarah, that's a really cool question. We get that a lot, especially at school visits and things too. Why do we see hail? So again, you guys can always feel free to ask questions. We're going to be wrapping up our Sunday night weather hangout because I got to get ready for a show. We're going to be over on Fox Toledo at 10 o'clock this evening. I'm going to be over on WTOL, of course, at 11 o'clock this evening. I'm going to analyze the very latest data over here. We've got our whole weather center. Again, if you guys have never seen this, we've got lots of computers over here and lots of data to analyze. So I'm going to be doing that here over the next few minutes before we go back on air. If I need to do more weather hangouts because it looks like severe weather is more likely, of course, I'm going to announce it on my Facebook and Twitter pages. We got the links up above for us here. And as always, if you guys have questions, I'll try to answer them on here, and I'm around on social media as well. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully we'll see you over on Fox and WTOL coming up here in just a few minutes. If not, you guys have a great week, all right?